Michigan has another commit in its 2022 class. Three-star tight end Colston Loveland from Idaho has committed to the Maize and Blue, Jim Harbaugh and company. Getting another pledge here. EJ will talk about kind of how it happened here to start. We'll also get to what Michigan is getting in Colston Loveland, and then we'll talk about tight end recruiting kind of more big picture. But first of all, Colston Loveland comes in, makes a trip to Idaho, makes his official visit in the last weekend in June, and then decides to pull the trigger here shortly thereafter.
Yeah, Loveland actually committed before he left campus, kind of behind the scenes and publicly announced. It was interesting how it worked out. He's a guy that really saw his stock go up here in these last several months. He was a kid that was kind of just hidden away, tucked away out in Idaho, which obviously isn't a big producer of talent. He's the most dominant player in that state, but still not a lot of eyes on him, not a lot of reporters go out there. Coaches obviously weren't allowed to hit on the road or go on the road. So just didn't get many eyeballs, but I really like his film. And we'll talk a little bit more about him as a player, but his recruitment was interesting. He took official visits to Arizona State, Oregon State, and he was scheduled to see Colorado. And he decided last minute, you know what, I'm not going to see Colorado. I'm going to go ahead and schedule a trip to Michigan instead. And he just fell in love with the program, what it had to offer on and off the field. And I thought, Jay Harbaugh did a really great job in this recruitment. He identified Loveland fairly early before the true blow up. And then just quietly developed a really, really good relationship with him. Like I said, convinced him to get to campus and cancel his Colorado visit and then just close. So I think, Jay Harbaugh is still a really effective recruiter and a guy that doesn't get as much love as some of the other assistants, but he quietly does a really nice job, and he sealed the deal with Loveland. Of course, Courtney Morgan helped as well. Director of Player Personnel, has really good ties out west, and even in Idaho, I suppose he is well respected. I know Courtney Morgan played a big role in this recruitment and knows some of the people around Loveland. So I think they just knocked it out of the park on the official visit, turned the tide quickly, and it had a quick turnaround.
Yeah, and now we're starting to see, Courtney Morgan's impact now, start to really happen. And you mentioned Jay Harbaugh. We talked about this recently on another, a different show, but, just how he seems to be kind of the forgotten man. He's been around for all 7 of these seasons, now heading into his 7th season with his dad, Jim Harbaugh, here. And he's done a good job recruiting. He's developed tight ends, now, had his stint as the running backs coach, but now back to tight ends, and has had a good track record doing that. So obviously a big land for him. Let's talk about Marlon Klein in just a second. He's the other 2022 Michigan tight end commit, but I guess, and we'll talk about exactly how these two will pair together. But, first, just Colston Loveland overall, individually, his game. What do you like about it? What do you, what are your thoughts on
it? He's definitely a great receiving tight end. He racked up more than 1,000 yards, led the state of Idaho in reception. So I think he's a guy that you can obviously line up in your traditional inline, but will be split out a lot and will be effective as more of a receiving tight end. Michigan landed Lewis Hansen last cycle. Hansen's already bulked up to 250 pounds. So even though Hansen can split out wide, he is a guy that's going to be spending a lot of time in line, especially at that size. So Loveland would be a great receiving complement, as was Marlon Klein. We'll talk a little bit about them here in a sec. But, last cycle, if you guys remember, Michigan was going after Thomas Fedone. He ended up going elsewhere, but he was going to be that receiving complement to Hansen, that they only ended up with one tight end. So they really wanted to take to this cycle. And I think Loveland is not only an upside prospect, he's added some really, really good weight. So he's not just like a receiver they're throwing out and playing tight end. He's added some really good weight. He has good height. He has decent speed for his size. He runs really good routes. He can go up and get it in the red zone. I really like this land. I think he's a 3-star guy right now, but I think he's a no-brainer going to be a 4-star by the time the next rankings are updated. I'm really excited to get eyes on him since nobody's ever seen him. So I'll be making the trip out to Idaho at some point here in the near future.
Yeah, kind of hard to rate a kid if you haven't seen him in person, but Obviously, they say film doesn't lie, but I mean, the two eyes, actually in person don't lie either. So let's talk about kind of Marlon Klein and just more big picture with tight end recruiting as a whole. So, Michigan's landed one tight end in the last few classes only. Like you mentioned, tried to get two last cycle, went after that big fish in Thomas Fedone, but wasn't able to land him. But now Marlon Klein is a guy who, watching some of his film, he kind of reminds me a little bit of a Zach Gentry type of guy where he's more of a receiver than a blocker, I guess. And then hearing you say this about Colston Loveland and exactly the style that he plays, it sounds semi-similar, I guess. How do you see them fitting in together in this class coming in, and I guess what do you think each of their roles will be down the road?
Yeah, I think it's clear Jay Harbaugh has a preference of more receiver bodies that can bulk up and add a little bit more weight, but are more natural to the wide receiver position. Loveland played a lot of wide receiver during his high school career. Marlon Klein started off as a pure wide receiver during his early part of his high school career. I think with Loveland, he's already added some more weight than Klein has. He has the potential to add even more weight. So I think Loveland fits the bill as more of that complete tight end that's going to spend a little more time in line. I'm not sure. I haven't seen Marlon Klein in person either, but I'm just not sure how much weight he's added or is going to add. I think Loveland's frame is more friendly to that. So I think Marlon Klein will spend a little more time split out wide, whereas Loveland will spend a little bit more time in line. But either way, both of those guys are going to be used in various packages. And a big reason they both committed is just the way that Michigan utilizes the tight end and how much emphasis they put on the position and what they do with those guys and how they're going to, again, use them in different packages. So I think all those guys, Hansen, Loveland, Klein, it's a great tight end room coming together for Jay Harbaugh. And both Loveland and Klein, just really big upside guys. I mean, Klein hasn't been playing football in the United States for very long. Loveland's out in the middle of nowhere. So these guys, I think they haven't even scratched their ceiling yet. And then with Hansen, he missed his entire senior year and was still rated as a top 100 recruit nationally. I mean, people forget how highly ranked he was. So again, just I think the tight end room's coming together really nice.
Yeah, and from a team perspective, because last year was a free year by the NCAA, just looking at the tight end room as a whole, Eric All and Luke Schoonmaker each have 3 more years of eligibility remaining. Louis Hansen coming in this summer, already on campus, 4 years left. And as we mentioned, these two guys in 2022. So it is starting to shape up as, a very, very strong room. For full coverage of this commitment, head over to the Wolverine.com. You can use the promo code BLUE60. To get instant access to all of our premium content. So we got a bunch of stuff up here on this commitment and other, activities going around Michigan football recruiting. So check that out right now at the Wolverine.com.